So we're going to go ahead and get started with our very first guest. And her name is Avery Cunningham. We're going to go ahead and first guest. Oh, something's going on there. Uh, I hear some feedback.
We're good. We're good.
Okay. All right. Avery Cunningham has a new book that's really setting the world on fire, and it's called The Mayor of Maxwell Street. And we welcome her to Black Authors Matter TV. And she has a copy of her book in hand. I had ordered my book, and I thought I was going to get it today so I could show you that I have it, but it won't be here till tomorrow.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
She just had the book ready.
Yeah, but you had it ready, so that was good.
I mean, the cover is beautiful. I have to take any opportunity to show off this cover.
It is a beautiful cover. It's a beautiful cover, and I love the font. I'm a big font person.
Yeah.
And I don't like font that looks like something I could have typed on the computer. And so when I see something that just it goes very well with the artwork behind it, they complement each other very well.
Yes, ma'am.
It's very professional and it's beautiful, and I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy. The designer is Amanda Hudson of Face Out Studio, and she did an excellent job. She's an award-winning artist, so I'm really, really grateful.
Okay, and it looks like it's a hefty book. It looks like it's at least 300 pages.
Oh, more. It's about a solid 500, I think. I think we
can say that's not a 300-page book, Gwen.
Okay, I said at least 300. I didn't want to overshoot, So
did you say it's 500 pages?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Just about.
So that's interesting because we talk about that on this show quite a bit, where authors come on the show and they're leaning toward the shorter books. Why did you decide to shoot for a longer book?
I think that's really just my natural form of storytelling. I love longer narratives. Some of my favorite novels are traditionally very long, and I love the chance to tell a story in its fullness, in every detail and every exploration of that story and those characters. And I've always leaned towards larger stories, or longer stories, I should say. And especially for historical fiction, I feel like that's just really the perfect type of genre or environment for opportunities to tell a lengthier, meatier, more in-depth story.
And I do agree with that. When it comes to historical fiction, we don't want a shorter historical fiction book. It's got to be longer. We've got to be able to chew on the book and visualize and experience it. And you can't really do that with a shorter historical fiction.
Right. And at least that was my goal, and that's my hope, that this is a book that readers really can luxuriate in.
Well, longer books are great if they move. So a 500-page book doesn't intimidate me at all. It doesn't scare me. Some people are like, if it's over 300, they won't even try. But a longer book is great if it's great storytelling. So I can't wait to dig into your book. And I didn't realize it was 500 pages, but the more the merrier. I am loving that. And you focus on Chicago as your setting, and it's the Prohibition era Chicago. And you have sort of the upper crust of Black society as backdrop for the story. So, one, are you from Chicago?
No, I am not from Chicago originally. I was born and raised in Jackson, Tennessee. I was born and raised in Jackson, Tennessee, which was about an hour outside of Memphis, 4 hours outside of Nashville. But I did live in Chicago all through my undergrad and graduate school education. I attended DePaul University. And so I was there for about 5.5 years. So I like to think of myself as an honorary Chicagoan. If you ask some Chicagoans, they might disagree with you. But I have a great love for the city. It's the city that made me. It's the city that really gave me the opportunities and the encouragement and the freedom that led me to this novel and this stage in my career. So any chance to explore that city's history and really try to honor all the love I have for that community is great for me.
Okay. Well, I'm familiar with Jackson, Tennessee.
Oh, really? Oh, thank goodness.
And because
Let's give that to Gwen because I'm
yeah,
not.
I'm in Houston, and my daughter went to school at North Carolina Central, which is in Greensboro,
Hmm.
and we would have to do road. She's out of school now, thank God. But uh, we and my family's from North Carolina too, so
Mm,
we would do road trips, and we would when we would take her to school and bring her back,
hmm.
we would take Texas 59, which takes you all the way to Arkansas, going north,
Hmm.
and then you go through Arkansas to Interstate 40, which
Right.
takes you all through Tennessee to North Carolina. Well, our halfway point where we would spend the night was in Jackson, Tennessee.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
now on a
wonderful.
21-hour road trip, the
Oh,
halfway
goodness.
mark was Jackson. So that was
Right.
that was what I know about Jackson, spending the night at the Red Roof Inn.
Oh, wow. Oh, I know exactly where that is. Oh, that's excellent. Well, I hope you enjoyed each of your overnight stays in Memphis.
It was
Or
there
excuse
were
me,
many,
Jackson.
many, 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 many of them. And so yes, we enjoyed them. So but Tennessee is a very beautiful state.
It
Um,
is. It is. Yes,
a
ma'am.
lot. It's one of America's best kept secrets in terms of just beauty on a road trip that
Mm.
you can really see the mountains, and you have the little enclaves and stuff. But anyway, let's get back to your book in Chicago in the Prohibition era. So, what this is your debut novel, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's
Yes,
what I
ma'am.
read. Okay. Have you written any other novels that weren't published?
Oh, certainly. And those novels will never see the light of day. And I've been an aspiring writer for as long as I can remember. I think I wrote my first true blue novel when I was maybe about 12 years old, which was, another very long book
Oh,
that was
that's
very, very
nice.
bad. And
Okay.
and so I've tried
Very, very
often.
bad.
I thought, well, as a young person, when I was 12, I thought this is the best thing anyone has ever written, of course, obviously. But now, as an adult person, I read back over it and say that poor ambitious child didn't know what she was doing. But yes, I've certainly written other novels that have not been published. But I certainly think this experience was unique out of all of the other opportunities I had to write. This story was very unique, and I'm really grateful that this is my kind of first introduction to publishing.
Now, this is your first novel,
Mhm.
but are you an experienced writer? Because and the reason why I asked this is because this is a very ambitious project for a first time author.
Yes, ma'am. I am an experienced writer. I suppose I've gone through all of the programs. Like, well, I'll say to speak clearly, I went through undergrad and grad school for writing. So this has been something professionally I've been trying to build up for some time. But yes, you're right. It is very ambitious, and something that I've learned about myself that many of my projects are ambitious. And I think I just have such a love for stories and for these ideas and for these characters that I really try to honor them to the fullest extent in my work.
Wonderful.
So when you pitched the book, had you written the whole book, or did you do like the first three chapter thing with the agent? How did you?
Right, yes, ma'am. This did sell on proposal. So I submitted a outline, synopsis, comparable titles, things like that. And then I think it was the first two chapters, which was about 35, 40 pages, I think. Yes, ma'am. And so, no, when the book was sold, I certainly did not have it all written. The
Oh,
deadline was
okay.
pretty tight, but I think that gave me a brand new appreciation and understanding of being a professional writer, what it takes to be a professional writer, how it really removed the myth of writing that you can't just wait for the muse to hit. You don't just, as Hemingway said, sit down at a typewriter and bleed. You have to be consistent. You have to practice a level of discipline in order to produce at a level that's really expected of a professional writer right now. So I think this was a great learning experience as far as that goes.
I think a muse is kind of it's kind of a myth. I think it's something
Mm.
really romantic to say.
Hmm.
But I mean, a muse is um, we it's just having that motivation to write.
Right.
So I think sometimes we say we're waiting for the muse to visit us or the muse to hit us. We're almost making an excuse for ourselves not to write. We just need to write.
Right.
Even if it's not the best, sometimes we just need to write. And I think as much as I'm saying that, it's a reminder to myself as well,
Mm.
so that we don't have to wait for the stars to align and the lightning to strike. All we have to do is just start to write. And even if it's not the best, we can always go back and fix it later.
Right, exactly, exactly. As many of my mentors have always said, you can't edit what you haven't written. So the only way to improve upon your writing is to write. And
Right.
even if it means forcing your way through points that are frustrating, or when you have writer's block, or when you know that you're not hitting the tone or the essence that you really want to hit, working through that is the only way you have a chance to go back and try to, find the real polished heart of the story.
Absolutely, absolutely. So can you tell us about the story?
Yes, of course. So, The Mayor of Maxwell Street is a work of historical fiction. It's about an ambitious Black debutante who enlists the help of an underground speakeasy proprietor to help hunt down the head of an underground crime syndicate in Prohibition era Chicago. It's really a story about intrigue, mystery, a little bit of romance, but at its heart, I feel like it's a story about identity, and especially for individuals, Black Americans, people of color living in the 1920s, which was such a pivotal and transformative time in American history, what individuals really had to do, what sacrifices they might be willing to make in order to achieve what they saw as the American dream, to achieve their own ambitions in, a very oppressive world that forced people to really maintain a status quo.
Wow. Now, when you were contemplating the book, what made you settle on this period in Chicago? I know it's kind of famous for the Prohibition era. Think about
Mhm.
Al Capone and all of that that took place during that time. But you could have done any number of eras in Chicago history.
Mhm.
What made you settle on this one?
Well, I feel like the 20s were, as I said, so pivotal for American history that this was a period of great wealth, of great poverty, of incredible excess that was all going to become crashing down. It was a time of the rise of organized crime, and it was a time when so many different borders of America were starting to blur a little bit. And by what I mean by that is when you're talking about, like, say, the Great Migration, when millions of Black Americans came out of the South and started moving and populating these northern and western and eastern cities very quickly. In some ways, over the course of a few months, they would change the entire demographic of a city. And that allowed so many new interactions between cultures and ethnicities. And a lot of times that could have resulted in violence, where you see these cities that might have lauded themselves as very progressive really start to have to come to terms with their own biases in terms of how they were treating these newcomers to their cities. And and as you said, it's a very, how to say, famous time for the Capones and the Italian crime families, but it's also such a vibrant history, and incredibly rich, all the different layers of what was happening in this city, when you talk about from going to government to going to individual households to street level interactions. The music that came out of Chicago during this time spread throughout the country, and we were talking about the blues, talking about even aspects of jazz. And so it felt like a heart. It felt like if you were going to have any kind of picture or still life of America in the 1920s, it would be in Chicago.
I
Okay.
agree. I mean, Chicago is that is like the mecca for historical fiction. You
Mhm.
Yeah, because there's been several new books
Yeah.
based in Chicago. One, the author, Tracy Clark, who came on the show
Mm,
a month ago or so, and her books are based in Chicago.
mhm.
But it's contemporary. But there's been a lot of books where Chicago is the setting for in
Right.
different time periods.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's a fantastic city, and I'm really happy to see this new era where individuals are really starting to use it as a setting because it is so vibrant and unique.
Mhm. Now that you said you study writing in English, did you also study history in college, or is this just something that you a personal passion?
Well, I guess It's interesting. I suppose if you're a student of literature, you have to be a student of history because how different writers wrote in different time periods, what they were writing about, what their audience cared about, is really already hinges so much on what times they were living in. So, especially coming up through my program, it was a very literary program, and when we're learning about all these different eras of narrative and storytelling to understand these poems or stories or short stories or novels or plays, it's so important to be as familiar with the history as possible because that informs so much of the writer's individual choices and informs a little bit of how maybe we as readers were meant to perceive and understand it. Like say for example, there is so many plays from different eras that were meant to be direct commentaries on governments of the time, on leaders of the time, individual scandals or changes in legislation at the time. So being aware of that, having that knowledge and having that familiarity with that history just fills out the entire reading experience. And I think that's why I've always been drawn to historical fiction because it's a world outside of just the story. So much is pivotal other than just what these individual characters are experiencing. It gives the reader a kind of dramatic irony where you're aware of the stakes of the wider world and you get to see how these characters are maneuvering through all of these different challenges and how they're preparing for things that maybe the reader knows are going to eventually come.
I think I like historical fiction because it paints history just in a different stroke. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is it's one thing to read about something and to know that this happened,
mhm,
but when we see it in the realm of historical fiction, we actually get to see how these historical facts, actually affected people.
mm,
So
right.
even if the people aren't real people, we get to see, we get to imagine how this may have affected real life. And so I think it gives us a better appreciation often for history. So that's one of the reasons why I like historical fiction.
Yes, exactly. I think that's entirely true. And when you have so many writers talking about such interesting and little known time periods, it expands so much of just popular culture's knowledge of the world that they're living in, and really fills out, our, like you said, appreciation for our history and all of its facets.
Right.
Yes. So tell us about your main character who is depicted on the cover.
Yes.
Who's the book's heroine or uh,
Yes, exactly. Well, heroine's
protagonist,
and
whatever.
it is an interesting word. A lot of people will say that Nellie Sawyer is the villain of her own story, but um, Nellie Sawyer, she is a how to say it? Let's start this. Well, Nellie Sawyer, at this time when we're starting the novel, she is the daughter and recently the only child of the professed richest black man in America at this time in the world of this novel. Her family specializes in Kentucky horse breeding and has become very wealthy and achieved a lot of prestige through that. And when we first meet her, it's at a really sad point at the funeral of her brother in Chicago. And this serves as not only a chance for her to say goodbye and grieve her brother's loss, but it kind of launches her into this new realm of society where her family is kind of a nouveau riche element trying to incorporate themselves into the world of the original black upper class and the talented 10th and so forth. And so she's going along this experience over this summer, learning how to be a society woman and really achieve all of her family's great expectations for her. But also, she has been moonlighting as an investigative reporter for the Chicago Defender, and we really get to see some of the highs of the story when she takes on a job trying to find the mayor of Maxwell Street, this elusive underground crime syndicate figure for the Chicago Defender, so she can write a piece about him. And so she's a character who's walking very much two lines. One of the inspirations for the book as a whole was The Great Gatsby, especially thematically speaking. And this idea of individuals being a part of something, whether that be a community or an organization or a class or even a race or a lifestyle, but yet feeling apart from it, and how you have to straddle those lines and how you really decide who you are and what determines your identity, what identity you want to lean into. And Nellie Sawyer's entire journey is really about finding herself and deciding the kind of person she wants to be.
Okay, so is the mayor of Maxwell Street, is he black or white?
Oh, that's a big mystery. I cannot give any of that
Oh,
away.
okay. Okay.
Now I really need to read the book.
Yeah. See, and it's good to keep some things a secret.
Right. Yes,
When you
ma'am.
write, when you write, Rhonda and I are both writers, so uh, we understand the process. So but that's really great and interesting. And why is the mayor of Maxwell Street what people call this character?
Right, exactly. This figure, this hidden figure that Nellie and a few other people are trying to find is called the Mayor of Maxwell Street. And for those who are familiar with Chicago, you'll recognize the name Maxwell Street. It's a name of a particular street or area in the city that's known for its market, the Maxwell Street Market. And the wonderful thing about this market, which has existed for well over 100 years, even though it's moved locations recently because of construction, but as an entity, it's existed for over 100 years. And the great thing about Maxwell Street as a community was that if you had something to sell, then you were welcome. That it was not a place that um, segregated. It was not a place that tried to slot people into different groups. Essentially, if you can make it on Maxwell Street, you can make it anywhere. And that theme of being able to cross racial boundaries and ethnic boundaries and how to find really the heart of Chicago as a city across all of these different groups of people, whether that be socioeconomic differences or racial or ethnic differences or even gender differences. The mayor of Maxwell Street is someone who kind of operates in that shadow realm, that operates in that ability to create connections and to reach across different lines. And as you go through the story, you start to understand how this character is really embodying a new era in Chicago, a new era in America, really.
Well, I had a feeling that the um the mayor of Maxwell Street wasn't the actual elected mayor.
No, that at this time that was Mayor Thompson. They called him Mayor Big Bill Thompson. He wore a very big hat.
I love it.
Okay,
So
yeah.
now, you actually have a couple of appearances coming up. You're going to be in Tuscaloosa, Alabama on the 16th and
Mhm.
Brentwood, Tennessee on the 24th. And then you're going to be in Decatur on April 19th.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Yes, I'll be this upcoming Saturday, I'll be at Ernest and Hadley's Booksellers in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And then the week after that, I will be in the Nashville area at Brentwood at the Brentwood Library. That is a public event. I'll also be doing a private event with the Zeta sorority. They've chosen the mayor of Mac. Yep, I saw you back
Oh, see, did you see?
My daughter's a Zeta too. So, but I'm not Greek, but I support the Zetas because my daughter's a Zeta. And Rhonda, one of my best friends, is a Zeta.
Yes, yes, yes. We love the Zetas. I'm also not Greek, but I love all of the sororities, all of the divine
Yes,
nine.
I
But
support them all,
yes,
especially
exactly.
when they're it's a good thing. They're doing
Yes.
good works and they have lots of fun. You know,
Oh yes,
and they seem to
definitely.
have a great camaraderie.
Now
Yes, ma'am.
look, I did all of that commotion. I didn't even hear what you said you were
No,
doing.
no, it's okay. The Zeta chapter for the state of Tennessee chose the Mayor of Maxwell Street as their inaugural monthly book club selection.
So,
So they will be hosting a luncheon in Nashville on the 23rd of March. So if there are any Nashville Zetas listening or anyone in I guess that would be yes, East Tennessee area, who would like to attend, then I hope to see you all there. That is a private event; it's not public, only for area Zetas. But on the 24th, that Sunday, there will be a public event held at the Brentwood Library. And then on April 19th, we'll be in Decatur, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta, and we'll be having another book signing there. But yes, for to stay in contact and stay in touch and see all the places we're going, the things we're doing, just follow me on Instagram. I'm at Avery Writes Big Books. And then on Facebook, I'm Avery Cunningham Author.
and we did put your website in the chat.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
So if anybody wants missed any of those dates and you would like to reach out, please go to the website
Mm.
and check out Miss Avery's book. Check out her events and what she has coming up. And I'm looking forward to reading this story. Now, is it, I see that's a hardback that you're showing us right now. Is it
Yes.
also in paperback, ebook, audiobook?
Yes, all of the above. Now, this was a book of the month club pick, so this is the book club the month club edition that I'm holding right now. It was printed in hardcover. I'm afraid all the hardcovers have been sold out nationally. I don't think there are any hardcovers left in the U.S.
That's
Um, but there are plenty of paperbacks still, and then of course an ebook edition, and then the audio was just narrated by the wonderful Bonnie Turpin. I highly recommend the audio edition. Listening to her perform my book was like experiencing it for the first time. So if you're an audio listener, I highly recommend the audiobook.
But the schedule that I have, I'm a huge proponent of audiobooks. I love
Mm,
audiobooks. And for anybody who might be wondering, I use Audible. However, the Libby app is another good app if you want to listen to books and not have to buy them. I hate
mm.
to say that because I know we're all authors and we want
No,
to
I understand.
but you can the Libby app is a great app if you it's like checking audiobooks out of the library.
Hmm.
So if you don't want to pay I believe it's 14.95, 15, well, I think it's 16.95 now a month
Mm,
for Audible, Libby is a great alternative.
that's
But
very true.
let's make sure that we support these books. I will be doing the audiobook with just because I move around too much and I just don't have time to sit down and read. But Gwen, she is the person who would rather hold the book in her hand
Yeah.
and
Mm.
read it.
I like the physical book. So thank you so much, Avery. Congratulations and continued success with your debut novel.
Thank
And
you
I
all
look
so
forward to
much.
reading it. I look forward to getting my copy tomorrow.
Thank you. I certainly hope you enjoy it, and thank you everyone who joined in and listened to our conversation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
You
Have a great evening.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all take care.
you
You
too.
too.